Prabhu Nityananda, Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. Thank you all for coming. We're continuing the of Srimad Bhagavatam, starting from 1:18:23. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchata Deshatarane. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The sages of Naimisharanya had earnestly encouraged Suta Goswami to speak about the topics of Krishna, and specifically about the topics concerning further activities of Parikshit Maharaj. The discussion, how he challenged the age of Kali has already been discussed. And Suta Goswami has expressed his humility and also his willingness to speak about these topics. In the previous verse, he declared that self-controlled persons, dhira, can all of a sudden give up the material world, all of a sudden give up all material attachments to the body, the mind, everything, and attain the highest perfection. So that's a preview into the activities of Maharaj Parikshit in the last stage of his life. Now, aham hi prishtorya mano pavadbhir achaksha atmavagamotra yavan nabha patantyatma samam patatrinas tata samam vishnugatim vipaschita. The Suta Goswami says that I'll undertake, first of all, he says, Prishtaryamana Bhavadbi, you've asked me about these transcendental topics, so I'll describe them as far as my realization allows. As birds fly in the sky, not to the top of the sky, but to different heights. So I'll speak as far as my realization enables me to do so. Srila Prabhupada commented about Sukadeva Goswami elsewhere that he was known as Shuka not just for his ability to repeat things word for word, but for his ability to present the subjects in a realized fashion, in a fashion appropriate to the audience according to his realization. And therefore, the pastimes become sweeter as the parrot touches the mango becomes sweeter. I had a friend who mm, his family had a mango grove, and he said, yes, this is true. The mango, when the parrot touches it, it creates like a spot on the mango, and the sweetness goes there. So with Sutta Goswami, similarly, realization means to speak what you've understood. It's not just to repeat things, although that's virtuous, but to repeat them after having understood them to some extent. Realization, Vigyan, Prabhupada sometimes translated as realization, and he sometimes explained that realization means that you can explain it to others because you've assimilated it, you've actually understood the subject. So the Sutta Goswami doesn't propose that he'll tell everything about everything, but even the Lord, even the Lord can't. Well, here it said, is the only person who could describe himself. But the Sutta Goswami says, I'll try as far as I can go. Any questions here? Okay. So now the actual pastime concerning the activities of Parikshit Maharaj will begin. Ekada dhanar udyamya vicharan mrigayam vane mrigan anugata shranta kshuritas trishito prasham chalashayam achakshanaha pravivesha tamash ashramam tadarsha munim asinam shantam milita lochanam. Once upon a time, Maharaj Parikshit, while engaged in hunting in the forest with bow and arrows, became extremely fatigued, hungry, and thirsty while following the stags. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well-known Shamik Rishi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. So, Prabhupada comments that there was no reason for him to be afflicted this way, but this was Krishna's arrangement just to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activities. One has to give up all attachment for worldly relations before one is able to go back to Godhead. And thus, when a devotee is too much absorbed in worldly affairs, the Lord creates a situation to cause indifference. The Supreme Lord never forgets his pure devotee, even though the devotee, he may be engaged in so-called worldly affairs. Sometimes he creates an awkward situation and the devotee becomes obliged to renounce all worldly affairs. The devotee can understand by the signal of the Lord, but others take it to be unfavorable and frustrating. I like this mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, the signal of the Lord. The Lord arranges things sometimes in such a way that the devotee is pressured to renounce. Everything else falls apart. There's some awkward situation is created, pushing the devotee toward renunciation. Cited from his own life, how his business failed and the difficulties in family life. Yasyaham manugranami harishe vachanam tava. No, sorry. Harishe ye tanam shanai. When I favor someone, then I take everything away from him. And he tries to build it up, and I take it away again until the devotee surrenders. All right. So sometimes, as in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, Krishna just takes everything away. Or sometimes, again, Prabhupada uses this term, Krishna sends a signal. Krishna sends a signal. Actually, Krishna sends signals to practically everyone, but we miss the signals. Just like it's said that one should retire from family life at a suitable age, Krishna sends signals. Your hair starts to turn gray, the skin starts to get wrinkled, the children grow up and get married and perhaps have children of their own. These are all signals. Time is coming. Our health may start to decline, our energy, in so many ways, our taste for doing the work that we used to look forward to. These may be signals from Krishna that your time, they are signals that now your old age is upon you. Dhritarashtra missed every signal you could possibly ask for. He was old, he was blind, his sons were killed, his plans were all thwarted, and still he's thinking, well, I'm being respected by Yudhishthira Maharaj, he's taking care of me. Missed every signal that could possibly have been sent. In the case of Yudhishthira Maharaj and his brothers, they saw signs that time had changed. There were inauspicious omens. Krishna had left the planet. And Yudhishthira Maharaj took it that this is a signal to go. This is the signal to leave. The same Yudhishthira who fought for the kingdom now gave up the kingdom completely, renounced everything, and went off to the Himalayas. So taking these signals. Well, in our own lives, we may also find that Krishna is sending a message. This is your family life is no longer happy. Doesn't mean if there's some disturbance in family life, we immediately say, well, heck with this. But at a certain mature stage, we may see that family life is no longer happy, business life is no longer happy. I'm old anyway. These are signals. Now it's time to retire. Or later one may start to see signals that death is near. This is already near. Old age means death is catching up with us. But then later there may be extreme signals that now, materialists miss that also. Doctor, can't you just give me 4 more years? I still haven't finished my plans. Or in some way or other, they're fighting to the end. Instead of taking the signal that Krishna's said, now it's time to go. Your time is over, or just about over, and now as you're with the time left, what will you do? Will you try to enjoy sense gratification, or will you pursue spiritual enlightenment? So how Maharaj Parikshit took it, we'll find in this narration. He was to become, for the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Sri Krishna, as his grandfather was the medium for the Bhagavad Gita. I wonder why it says the revelation by Lord Sri Krishna. I guess it was Krishna's arrangement. Had Arjuna not been taken up with an illusion of family affection by the will of the Lord, Bhagavad Gita would not have been spoken. Similarly, had Maharaj Parikshit been hungry and thirsty, Srimad Bhagavatam would not have been spoken by Srila Sukadeva Goswami. So this is all Krishna's loving arrangement, his very favorable arrangement for a pure devotee. Earlier, he'd arranged Parikshit Maharaj to be protected in the womb of his mother from Hastra of Ashwatthama, and now he's arranging for Parikshit Maharaj to leave this material world. The materialist might is so unfortunate, he's been cursed. As a young man, he has to leave his kingdom. This is all misfortune. But for a devotee like Parikshit Maharaj, it's good fortune. What is that? Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labho jaya jaya. The devotee sees all circumstances equally as the mercy of the Lord. Tulya, he's in the 12th chapter. It's balanced. He sees everything as Krishna's mercy. Even the things that would be unfavorable for the materialist, to lose all your money is a disaster. But for a devotee, it's fortunate. To be cursed to die is a disaster. For a devotee, it's fortunate. Well, everything becomes fortunate for the pure devotee by the will of the Lord, because the devotee is under Krishna's special protection. Are there some comments or questions here?
I think Tulsi Priya had a question, followed by Gurudas, who had one.
Okay, let's see what's happening here.
I had a question also.
You have one too. Should we give precedence to live questions? Oh, Tulsi Priya's is not written down, is it?
Mine was up earlier. So.
Let's see.
She's on the screen.
She's on the screen.
We can't hear her.
You have to unmute yourself, Tulsi Priya.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously Krishna deals with us all individually according to our level of surrender to him. But I was wondering also, given the current situation in this country and all over the world, is there any way to see the events that are unfolding as Krishna dealing with us collectively, or is it just something that's happening and we have to respond to it individually? I feel like this is definitely a wake-up call for me, and I was just wondering, if there was any significance to the fact that it's happening to so many people, although not all of them are going to be responding in the ways that devotees might. So I was just wondering if you had any comment on that.
Yeah, of course, for the non-devotees, these things are karma. For the devotees, it's Krishna's special care. But for the non-devotees, like Parikshit Maharaj, it wasn't that he was hung and so on because of his karma. It was Krishna's special arrangement. But generally, these things, viruses, wars, earthquakes, all of these things, they're the arrangement of the material energy according to the laws of karma. There's our individual karma, so we get, we fall sick fall sick, or we trip over something and break a hip or whatever it is. But there's also collective karma. 75 people go down in an airplane, or a family gets subject to some sort of calamity. So these things are happening collectively. It's quite astonishing or almost inconceivable, the complexity of karma, how Krishna weaves this all together, or his material nature really weaves this all together, so that when necessary, groups of people, either in small groups, 2 or 5, or in nations, or even continents, or the whole world, are brought together and served up the results of their karma. The Mahabharata war was like that, where Krishna brought so many demons together at once, demons and others, but especially an unnecessary, burdensome defense force. Krishna brought them all together and wholesale dispatched them. So sometimes that's there. You were thinking you were going to enjoy this material world. You were thinking that this whole scene is meant for your happiness. You're thinking because you've got more guns and more money and more power than everyone else that you're invincible. We have news for you. So this is Krishna's arrangement also. Smash. The material world means getting smashed by threefold miseries. And sometimes individually, sometimes collectively. Now the devotees, they're in one sense caught up in all of this because we're in the same environment, we're in the same material world. So we get thrown into the same wars or the same epidemics or the same earthquakes or the same whatever it may be. But the devotee sees it differently. The devotee sees Krishna's hand there, and therefore for the devotee, everything becomes fortunate. For the non-devotees, imagine what a horrible thing this is. All of their lives are being threatened, their jobs are going out the window, their money is disappearing, their anxiety like anything, their sex life is hampered. The rest of it's not so bad, but now you have to keep social distancing, so their sex life is totally devastated. So this is all a disaster for them. But for the devotees know how to adjust. They take, all right, this is Krishna's mercy, and therefore, number one, I can adjust to it. That's the nature of a saintly person. He can adjust to any circumstances. But more than adjust, the devotees can take advantage of these opportunities for increasing their realization, increasing their devotional practices, even increasing their outreach. I was just thinking today that this Zoom thing has been here for like quite a while now, easily a couple of years, and I never thought of using it. I know some devotees had telephone conferences, which I really didn't like, built to me, talking into a void over the telephone. But this is a really good platform. And now that I'm doing this 3 nights a week, I think I'm just going to continue virus or no virus. So it's Hare Krishna. So it's something I wasn't thinking of, but it's Krishna's, what shall we say? Krishna gave us a gift here. We can expand our outreach in some ways. In some ways we're restricted, in some ways we can expand. And then also from other angles, we may be grounded, so we increase our bhajan, and we increase our introspection. When we're surrounded by impending death, any one of us could be caught. Some of our devotees in England and perhaps elsewhere have already left this world because of the virus. And the virus can enter anywhere, even when we're fending it off or sealing we're observing best practices. There's no guarantee. So it gives us the opportunity to be more serious. The Vaisheshika Prabhu, I think I may have mentioned this before, he likened this self-quarantine and self-isolation and so on to Chaturmasya. Sages sit down and they do bhajan. They travel all around all the time, but for 4 months of the rainy season, they sit down and they discuss Krishna Katha and do bhajan. I can relate from my own experience that one time I was in India during the rainy season. Maybe it was when I was with Padayatra, I was definitely with Padayatra in the rainy season, but it may have been some other time. Anyway, I was in the rainy season in India. And the rainy season's inconvenient in many ways. Its cloth doesn't dry. There's always this sort of stickiness in the atmosphere. Sometimes it rains buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets. And digestion is affected, appetite there's sort of this melancholy that pervades the atmosphere. It's like a rainy day, here in Tuaco, it's rainy today and the clouds are gray. It's not bright and sunny. But we know this is 1 or 2 days. So what? But 4 months of rainy days. And then again, your appetite goes down, digestion, everything becomes rather difficult. And there's a sense of melancholy that can characterize such a time. And I was with Bhakti Charumaraj. I met him wherever I was in this rainy season. And I mentioned to him how it's sort of a melancholy time. And he said it was his favorite season. And he quoted something from Rabindranath Tagore, which now I've forgotten. But his point was that this is conducive for reflection. It's conducive it's not conducive for enjoyment. It's conducive for thought, for reflection, for introspection. So this time it can also be like that for us. Is that all right?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, let's see what GD Gurudas has to say. One who's impure will miss the signals because of his continued desires. Missing a signal. There was some, there's every now and then you read that a subway train or a regular train is crashed because someone missed a signal. So the impure will miss the signals because of continued desires, but at some point, the soul has missed so many signals, he loses faith, not necessarily in God, but in himself, that he can even recognize a signal. Then perhaps doubts come. Was that a signal and I missed it? Seems an invitation for the mind to do what it likes to do, which is speculate. Can someone who knows through and through that he is a neophyte ever expect to recognize a signal without taking it as his mind to be pretentious? A good question. The fortunate person may recognize the signal, or he may be told. The spiritual master says, this is a signal. The sadhu, Dhritarashtra, who missed every signal you could possibly miss, was blessed by Vidura. Vidura, threw it in his face and said, you've missed all the signals. Now is the time to leave. So the sadhus may direct us, sometimes just by causeless mercy or by jolting us. Or sometimes we may approach the sadhu and say, I don't know how to read the signals. That's actually what sages are supposed to do. They're supposed to be the experts in reading the signals. That is, in seeing what Krishna is. I don't want to overextend it, but in seeing how we can best respond to what Krishna has given us. Sometimes what's really confusing or opaque to us is clear to others, and especially to those who are trained in devotional service. What is that? Vimudha nanupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha. The big fools, vimudha na anupashyanti, they don't see through the eyes of scripture, through the eyes of saintly persons. They want to see everything directly by their own mind, by their own intelligence, and not by following, not anupashyanti, but pashyanti jnanachakshusha. Those who are proper see with eyes of knowledge. So, of course, it's expected that a trained person, what is that? A Charjavan Purusho Veda, one who's under the direction of the spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One is expected to develop discrimination, intelligence, a discernment of Krishna's arrangements. But part of it also is humility, to know that I don't really have a clear understanding of what's going on here. Let me approach my spiritual master, let me approach the sadhus, let me look to Shastra for direction, and not think that I'll figure everything out. So from that point of view, to think that to lose faith in oneself is good. You know, people are all worried about a lack of self-esteem. The usual problem is an overabundance of self-esteem. They think that they can figure everything out, that they know. But a humble person thinks that I really don't know what to do. I have to go to sources of greater knowledge, greater understanding, whether it's the guru or the sadhus or the shastra or some combination, so that he can see. Even Parikshit Maharaj, we see that in his personal example. He pretty much knew what he had to do, but he knew, first of all, it's time for me to give up. He went to the banks of the Ganges, but when he was there, then he was asking, what should I do? He was already a pure devotee. He was especially saved by Krishna, so he was very dear to Krishna. He could have said, well, I know what to do, and no one has to tell me anything. But he went to the Ganga and humbly inquired from the assembled sages, what should I do? I have 7 days left. What should I do? Is that all right? If there's time, yes, there's time. Yeshadadullah Prabhu. You'd like to ask a question around the point of getting the signal from Krishna and stepping back from worldly affairs. Yes, Yeshadadullah Prabhu, what is that question?
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So I think the best thing that has come out of this COVID-19 situation is these nightly online sanghas with you and other great souls. So I think this has become very addictive for us, and I would say for many of the people who I see joining every day. So thank you very much for starting that, and Madan Gopal Prabhu for starting that. So I was thinking about your comment about Dhritarashtra. He missed so many signals, and devotees get so many signals to renounce and step back. And the Shastras say one should enter Vanaprastha at, say, age 50, for example, and return to the forest. That's literally what Vanaprastha means. But in today's day and age, that sounds out of context or impractical for householders. And like if you want to survive, for example, just to get medical insurance from your workplace, you have to keep working till 65. And then you hope Medicare will be around when you turn 65 so that, you can help to pay for your medical bills in old age. So in the context of all that, how does detachment look? So, I hear the signals, but then I'm also trying to see how do I apply it? And, I'm sure this question is relevant for many people who will at some stage pass 50 and then say, well, how do I practice it?
Well, this, of course, we should have an online Sangha group just for this. A great topic. In fact, there's an idea. Maybe we should do that. It's not that retirement is less practical now or less relevant now. It's equally practical and equally relevant. Now, yes, going to the forest, that's not very likely. That's not possible for us to go to the forest and dress in tree bark and live on roots and berries. No, that's a previous age. But retirement is, in one sense, more practical than the alternative, more beneficial than the king and king. That first of all, we're like now slaves, because working when I have to collect my pension or whatever, so I have to work till 65 or beyond that, and it's not fun. Working is, first of all, not all that much fun to begin with, but when you're 55, 60, 65, it can become excruciating to have to work every day. Is out of tune, biologically out of tune. In the Varnashram system, are biologically appropriate. It's not a 5-year-old boy to be married. It's appropriate for him to study. That's just biologically, that's the sensible thing you do. And householder life is biologically appropriate for young people. And retirement is biologically appropriate for older people. Their bodies are telling them, enough of this. Give me a break. I can't do this anymore. It's horrible. Just biology is how much more can I squeeze out of sex life or of sense gratification? I can't eat more. I can't. Everything. The whole biological system is saying, no, it doesn't work. And they're desperately trying. They've got something to increase their appetite, something to keep their libido going. They've got something for this and something for that. And for the ladies, there's every kind of cream and paint and so on, so that they can fake it and try and still be somehow or other competitive, as if they were, at least 40 when they're 50 or 60. And, I'm still looking good, still feeling young. Doesn't really work. And younger people, of course, know that it doesn't work, and they're looking at these old people and thinking, what are these fools? But so biology is pushing us toward retirement. Now, the next thing is, I have to work till I'm 65 because of my medical insurance and this and that. First thing is, I don't know that I'm going to reach 65. It's all a plan there that, yes, I'll reach 65 and I'll have medical insurance and then. But those plans may be disrupted at any point. There's no guarantee. The next thing is, for thousands and thousands of years, people were somehow carrying on without medical insurance and this and that. It's not that Parikshit Maharaj thought, well, I have 7 days, but I have medical insurance. And let's see, is there something in there about snake birds? No, he knew that this is, and devotees knew, Krishna will maintain me. I have to depend on Krishna. And if Krishna doesn't maintain me, then I'm going to die. That's acceptable. It's now become unacceptable to die. You have to fight to the last moment. You have to have an army of doctors trying A, trying B, trying C, trying D, somehow to keep you alive. Why? That's like torture. It's torture. The man is old, he's suffering, He's there's no prospect for his actual recovery, but he's got to go through this and this and this and this. Better that, all right, if I die, well, that's expected. That's expected. Why do I have to fight to the bitter end to stay alive? Krishna comes in the form of death. Oh, all right, I've got my transfer notice. Let me go. Let me go. Therefore, Prabhupada was so many times telling us in Vrindavan, don't take me to a hospital. Promise you will not take me to a hospital. He didn't want to prolong his stay by some heroic scientific interventions. When Krishna comes and when Krishna desires, I'll go. So that readiness, the readiness is all. We have to be ready that, all right, when Krishna wants, if he wants me to stay, I stay. If he wants me to go, I go. But meanwhile, I have to be ready. I have to prepare. Not that and the preparation is not work, 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 work. If I have to work till I'm 65, 70, and it's always something, I have to keep working for my medical insurance. I have to keep working because there's a son who hasn't yet finished his college education, or, there's always some reason why I have to keep working. No, the Panchashordham Vanam Vrajay, Prabhupada said, imperative mood. One must go. And when we take it that way, this is my duty, then several things happen. Number one, my path forwards suddenly becomes so much clearer, so much freer, so much more valuable for spiritual advancement. And the next generation holds a party because we were blocking their way. We're holding on to the best posts. We're holding on to the power. We're holding on to the way things should be done, the way that we know they should be done. We're blocking their advancement. They're at the age when this kind of taking charge is appropriate, where they have the energy and the enthusiasm and the fresh thinking to take charge of something and move things forward. But they've got to deal with people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and still thinking, well, this is my, GBC for life, trustee for life, whatever it is for life, and won't get out of the way. So that's a disservice to the next generation. So from both sides, this retirement is wanted. Therefore, there's a whole chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Pandavas retire timely. They handed the throne to Maharaj Parikshit, and they retired. And arguably, they could have ruled for some time more. And Parikshit Maharaj could have learned more from them, seeing their example, but they timely retired. This is their duty. So it's our duty to find the ways and means. We often heard, still may sometimes hear, where there's a will, there's a way. If we're willing to retire, then there's a way to retire. And those who are determined and serious will find the way. People, it may be this way, some people may be that way. There'll be some individual differences. But the purpose is, no, I should retire. And therefore, the planning starts earlier also. If I know I'm going to retire, then I don't start keep having children in my 40s so that, my son will be 20 when I'm 60. I'm already wrapping things. If I know I'm going to leave at 50, I start wrapping things up even before then. But if I'm thinking, well, 60, 65, and it's 70 or so, you know, I'm either still thinking how to hold on, or else death takes me by surprise and I'm yanked out. It's highly relevant. Retired life is as essential as ever and as relevant as ever. Is that okay? Some breaking up in the broadcast. Only the devotee speaking should have their video turned on. Okay.
Yes. Yes, Maharaj. Maybe just take that away.
You've got two devices on, it sounds like.
Yeah, because I got kicked out of one phone and I had to dial back in from another. So I actually missed a couple of minutes, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying. And as you said, this is probably a topic for a longer seminar.
Yeah,
And more to come.
more to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
I hear that this is all posted online on YouTube. Maybe Madan Gopal will know more about that. Tulsi Priya says she'll start the group once or twice a month. Sound good? The Vanaprastha group online. Yes, it does sound good. Madan Gopal says he'll join. And Spring says, yeah, so here. So a lot of people want to join this group. Yes, let's do it. We'll choose a day and we can carry on with this. And we'll see what's a decent interval, whether once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month. Tulsi Priya says snake birds aren't covered by insurance. Okay, she's read the policy. And Kendra would like to add something. Okay, well, I've got 2 comments here, and then we'll come to a Kendra's. Katya says, we know we can die at any moment. At the same time, we should plan to retire from family life in the future when we are old. But we can't be sure that we will live that long. Could you say something about that? Yes. There's not even a guarantee that I'll live to retire, even to live to be 50. That's a fact also. I told this story before. Maybe I'll tell it again. I was one time traveling with a friend of my mother's was driving me home from some family engagement that I felt obliged to attend. And she still lived in the town I grew up in. So she said, who was in your class? And she was like ready with the news about anyone that I could think of. And among the people I thought of, there was one girl who lived a few blocks away from me, and very nice girl, actually, from a good family and cultured person. And the woman said, you didn't hear? I said, no. She must have heard, and it went on like that. So here's finally the story. The girl had been admitted to a good college in the Northeast, and her father was driving her either to the first semester or back to school. And the mother was also there in the car, and a sister or two. And while they were driving up the highway, they got a flat tire. So the father got out to fix the tire, and the girls got out to help. And some drunk driver came and wiped them all out, just like that. Just like that. With the mother still in the car. So I'm thinking this girl is by now, she's got kids and grandkids, and just as a young girl, finished. So, and that's one example out of thousands and thousands. So therefore, we have to be, it's said that one who wants to enjoy should think he'll never die. And one who wants to make spiritual advancement should think, I'll die at any moment. So from that point of view, we plan according to the Varnashram system. It's in our nature and it's our duty to make plans as far as possible, knowing that still Krishna has the authority to ignore all of our plans, to change the whole script. And therefore we have to be ready that at any moment Krishna death may come, or at any moment something may change. I'll no longer be healthy, I'll no longer be rich, I'll no longer be married. That Kalasamvara, one of my godbrothers, was in the car with Tamal Krishna Maharaj when Tamal Krishna Maharaj passed away, and his wife also was, Kalasamvara's wife was killed. So his whole life changed just like that. And there's so many examples. So we have to be willing that my attachment is not to things as they are, but to Krishna. Devil's advocate Guru Das, you devotees are so negative, you only see the gloomy end of life. Every day you spend preparing for death. You're missing out on life. What is that story of the, I've forgotten, it's like a little fable about the squirrel who was preparing for the winter, and the, who knows who's good on fables? Any moms out there or something? When everybody else was starving, the squirrel did fine because he prepared. So,
do you mean the ant and the grasshopper?
Is it the ant and the grasshopper sounds?
Yeah, the ant is working all summer long very hard, and the grasshopper is singing, because that makes the noise in the evening, the chirping. And so, the ant says, why don't you do something? And the ant's like, oh, no, I just enjoy singing. And then the winter came, and the grasshopper approaches the ant and says, oh, can you give me something to eat? And the grasshopper says, well, you wanted to sing, now you can dance.
Yeah. So we're negative. Negative means realistic. Realistic. The reality is, the materialist says, he's not afraid of death. Yeah, tell me about it. We see that all around us now. Not afraid of death. But when things start to break down, they retreat in their deep fear of the unknown, because it is unknown, the knowledge of the next stage. Quite right. Quite right. Good point. Then Kendra, was it Kendra who wanted to say something? Oh, and there's more here. Suman, regarding the previous verse. Oh, Kendra was answered. Okay, so Suman's question, we have 2 minutes left. The previous verse, does a devotee get Brahman realization before Bhagavan realization, before reaching the spiritual world? It's all included in Bhagavan realization. It's not there's a gradual progression. The Jnani gradually comes to the position of Brahman realization. If he takes up yoga, he can realize the Paramatma. If he goes further and takes up pure devotional service, he can realize Bhagavan. But if one directly takes up pure devotional service, then he realizes Brahman and Paramatma automatically. If you go to the sun planet, you don't have to separately endeavor to see the sunshine. Or if you meet the sun god, you don't have to separately say, what about the sun planet? Everything's included. So when one becomes Krishna conscious, then everything is included. Krishna is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, all three in fullness. So by realizing Krishna, Yasmin Vigyate Sarvigata Bhavati, one realizes everything. Well, thank you all. We're at 9 o'clock. Madan Gopal, are there any announcements about other programs coming up?
Yes, so on the same channel tomorrow, at the same time, 8 p.m., we'll be having a special class on the deep relationship between Lord Ramchandra and his brother Bharat. The class is begun by His Grace Adi Gadadhar Prabhu of Atlanta, who's a very good speaker, and he's also a frontline fighter. He's a medical doctor, and he's on the front lines of the virus. Of course, we won't talk about that, but just so you know the context. So please continue joining us. And then on Sunday at 6 p.m., we have a special speaker. Nirmala Prabhu, who is the Sunday speaker?
His Grace Devki Nandan Prabhu from Singapore, who is the advisory lawyer for ISKCON GBC there. So it's also a wonderful speaker.
Yeah. And then next week, also Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj again. And then Tuesday, Thursday.
You got drowned out there for a second. What do we have next week?
So next week, we have also Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as usual, with Jayadvaita Maharaj. And then we also have on Tuesday and Thursday, His Grace Shyamananda Prabhu. So quite a nice lineup. So yeah. And any other announcements?
We don't have any orders yet.
Kendra's asking where the recorded versions of these talks are posted.
Yes. So I see Katya already shared the link over there. Just want to make sure that's the right
Oh,
one.
yeah, it's there. Okay, Katya's
Thank you.
posted that.
So yeah, that channel has the links that we put up, and even tonight's recording will be up shortly. So
And so Priya says anyone interested in the Vanaprastha group can get in touch with her on Facebook.
We should join.
that'll be nice. So maybe we can create a group, and then we can have Zoom meetings or something. The Vanaprastha group. So okay, sounds good.
There's enough of us here.
Enough potential Vanaprasthas lined up here. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.